Han vill men kan inte sova. Hungern river hans varga buk. Och det är kallt i hans stova. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig. Vargen ylar i nattens skog, ylar av hunger och klagan. Men jag ska ge en grisasvans, sånt passar i varje magar. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig. Vargen ylar i nattens skog. Han vill men kan inte sova. Hungern river hans varga buk. Och det är kallt i hans stova. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig. Du varg, kom inte hit. Ungen min får du aldrig.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning worship service at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. I am Susan Buff, and I will be helping to lead our service this morning. I've been a member of this congregation for a number of years, and I'm glad to call it my spiritual home. In the Christian calendar, today is St. Francis Day. The feast of St. Francis of Assisi commemorates the life of a monk who lived during the 12th century and who is the Catholic Church's patron saint of animals and the environment. In keeping with our seventh principle, to affirm and promote the interdependence web of all existence, we UUs have a tradition of following the Christian tradition of blessing our domestic animals on this Sunday. But because of COVID-19 pandemic, we are unable to bless our animals in person this year. But we will bless them and their families nonetheless through our service of celebration this morning. And so, we come together this morning for worship and fellowship as we greet old friends and new visitors alike. Please feel free to greet one another privately or with everyone by typing in the Zoom chat box now. We also invite you to light a candle at home, as in keeping with our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we light a chalice as we begin our service. Our chalice lighting words today are written by Reverend Terry. We cannot know their thoughts. We only know that they run around and bark or purr or chirp or snooze, oblivious to the cares and worries we carry, not caring about who wins the World Series or the Super Bowl. They experience joy just in the act of being. They give us a chance to express unconditional love, free of restraint or taboo, without asking anything in return. Today, we light a candle of joy that the beauty and spirit of nature can move us, take us outside of ourselves and our thoughts, and make us simple all over again.
So good morning again, and I apologize for the problems we experienced with our audio this morning. That's okay. It's Sunday. It's the fall. Once again, I'm Reverend Terry Cummings, and welcome to our Sunday morning worship at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. It seems like another week has gone by, and more turmoil, more things to distract us, more worry in our world. It's good to be here together on Sunday morning and have some sense of normality and respite from the world outside us. And even though things may seem crazy, we take this time to just be together in community and in appreciation of the time of the season and of the animals and of the world around us. And this morning I'd like to begin our worship service by just inviting us to enter into a holy space, a quiet space, a space of meditation, so that we can begin this hour and spend this hour together somehow distracted from the things that are going on in the world around us. I'm going to invite Grant at this time to put a picture on the screen, and I'm going to encourage you all at home to turn off the video feed, maybe close your eyes, turn off the light if you're in a room that you can turn the light off, and I'm going to invite you to share a guided meditation with me. On a bright morning in early fall, a brittle breeze reminds us of the shorter days that lie ahead. Leaves are turning and falling. The air is dry and crisp with the sense of the season. I invite you to enter a period of quiet, a period of guided meditation. You may wish to adjust your position so that your spine is straight, your body relaxed, your hands resting gently in your lap. You might want to close your eyes and shut out all the distractions of the light. Let us take a few deep, slow breaths In and out. In and out. With your eyes closed, notice what your other senses are telling you. The hardness or softness of whatever it is that you're sitting on. Notice the feelings in your arms and legs, loose or tight. Maybe stretch or move any muscles that feel tight. Feel your joints, your muscles, and every part of you beginning to relax. Now, imagine you're lying at the edge of a forest, maybe in a hammock, or on a hay wagon, or just lying on the ground staring up. The leaves are gold and red and green and brown. A deer appears, and then another, and then another. They see you with unblinking eyes. Their noses twitch and their ears move as they sense danger. They jump silently, soundlessly, back into the trees and are gone. Now, a bird circles high above. It circles around and around, moving lower in search of something to eat. It sees you and retreats into the clouds, clouds that are moving in, ahead of a gentle fall rainstorm. The wind picks up now. It looks like it's chilly and damp, but you feel warm and relaxed, as if floating in a pool of warm water in a bubble of your own, or floating on a cloud. Now, breathe in again and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Notice any feelings in your muscles or your skin. Now, turn your attention to the sounds around you. What do you notice in your living room or kitchen or your office at home? Does the squeak of a chair on a kitchen floor remind you of the sound of a whale? Do you hear the wind outside pushing leaves? Can you hear a church bell ring someplace? Having acknowledged these outward sounds, let us turn our focus inward now. Thoughts may float through your consciousness. You can just let them float on by. Feelings may bubble up from some deeper place within you. You don't have to name the feeling or put any words to it. Just notice if there's anything there for you with gentle acceptance. Now, focus your mind on your favorite animal. A dog you owned when you were a kid, maybe. Or a cat that lives with you and snuggles with you. Or an eagle or a hawk, a butterfly, a baby squirrel. In the quiet corners within, let us sense the healing powers of nature, the ability of our body to be restored just by connecting with the natural world. From within us, we feel a warm creature lying next to us. A favorite cat, perhaps, purring contentedly on our stomach or lying beside our heads. We feel comforted, knowing that life continues as normal in the animal world, despite the world being mixed up and upside down in the realm of people. Continue to be with your breath and a still, quiet mood as you rest a while longer, connected to the spirits of the creatures that walk or fly silently beside us, often invisible to us, their spirits sharing the sacred space that we have made for ourselves in our homes. Hold that feeling just for a few seconds, a minute. And now, I'm going to invite you to take another breath or two and slowly open your eyes. Leave behind all the baggage that you brought with you when you entered into this meditation space. Look outside and see if you can see the signs of autumn. See if there are any birds or animals going about their business outside. Wild geese, perhaps, flying missions of purpose unknown to us. Maybe a hawk flying south, or a turkey vulture circling above the ground, or a robin, or a squirrel. Now you are back. You are with us again. Let us all breathe together one more time and let it out as we re-enter the space. Welcome back.
Good morning, all. Can you hear me? If you can, just give a thumbs up. Yes? All right. I got Judy. Judy gave me a thumbs up. So did Paul. So I know we're good to go. Good morning, all. The story I'm going to tell you this morning is called The Grumpy Gecko. So the prince of the jungle, the tiger, the most majestic tiger, happens to be my favorite animal, was sleeping peacefully in the jungle when all of a sudden, all tiger could hear was, "Gecko, gecko, gecko." And the tiger goes, "Gecko, it's the middle of the night. What are you doing?" And the gecko says, I'm here to complain because you see the fireflies. The fireflies, or lightning bugs, I'm not sure where you're from or what term is your preferred term, but they keep flashing right in front of my eyes as I'm trying to sleep. And it keeps me up all night. So the tiger yawns and says, "All right, I'll go talk with the fireflies." So off tiger goes and talks to the fireflies. And the fireflies say, "Yeah, we're flashing all night, but we're just passing along the message of the woodpecker. The woodpecker is the one who is drumming out a message, and we are just being polite by passing it along. We want everyone to know the message. And the tiger says, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll go talk with the woodpecker. And off goes the tiger. And in the distance, tiger can hear, and the tiger comes upon the woodpecker. And the tiger says, woodpecker, like, why are you drumming out this message? And the woodpecker says, well, you see, I'm trying to warn everyone because the dung beetle keeps rolling pieces of manure across the path. And I don't want anyone to step in it. So I'm trying to be nice here, okay? I'm sorry if you don't appreciate my drumming. And the tiger's like, no, that's actually very kind of you. Thank you for letting me know. I will go talk with dung beetle. So tiger goes off and talks with dung beetle. And dung beetle says, I can't stop all this manure. I gotta clear it. And tiger's like, but why are you rolling dung across the path? And the dung beetle says, well, you see water buffalo. Water buffalo leaves these piles of manure all over the path. So I gotta clear the way as much as I can to make sure that people aren't stepping in it. And tiger said, oh, well, that is very thoughtful. I guess I'll go talk with water buffalo. And tiger finds water buffalo in a pool of mud, just lounging. And tiger says, water buffalo, I hear you've been leaving piles of manure all over the path. Like, don't you think that's a little inconsiderate? And water buffalo says, well, you have to understand, rain comes along and keeps coming down in huge buckets and leaving these holes in the path. And I'm just trying to make sure that I can fill up as much of those holes as possible because I don't want anyone to trip on their path. So the tiger says, oh, okay, I guess I have to go talk with rain. So off tiger goes, and tiger starts climbing up through the mountain. And as tiger gets to the top of the mountain to speak with rain, tiger takes a moment to look down at the valley and all the jungle below, and tiger can see all the beautiful flowers that are blooming and can smell the fragrant lavender. And tiger can even hear the burbling streams and rivers that are feeding all this beautiful landscape below and keeping it alive and vibrant. And tiger says, I really don't need to ask rain why it's raining, right? I think this view, this beautiful valley and jungle, this gives me my answer. So tiger walked back down and came across the lizard again. And Gecko says, well, did you talk to the fireflies? And the tiger says, Gecko, listen, okay? Listen carefully. The fireflies are just passing along woodpecker's warning. And woodpecker is warning everyone about the dung beetle moving manure all over the path. And the dung beetle is just moving the manure that the water buffalo has left on the path. But the water buffalo is just leaving manure to fill in the holes that the rain has left. And rain makes all these holes in the path because rain is feeding the streams and the lakes and even the puddles, right? And all these beautiful things. And in those puddles, that's where the mosquitoes live. And Gecko says, oh. And tiger asks, Gecko, what do you eat? Mosquitoes, said Gecko. So Gecko repeated slowly, if rain stopped raining, then the water buffalo would stop leaving manure in the holes, and the dung beetle would stop rolling manure, and the woodpecker would stop mourning, and the fireflies would stop flashing. Yes, Gecko, said tiger. But then I wouldn't have anything to eat. Exactly, said the tiger. Gecko, everything in this world is connected. So go, live in peace with the fireflies. So Gecko stuck himself under a branch, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. The fireflies flickered and flashed, and Tiger went back to bed and snored. Moral of the story, as our seventh principle tells us, the interdependent web of all existence. We are a part of a beautiful web of existence that includes the wonderful wildlife that inhabits this beautiful earth. And it is our job to serve in its best interest by living in peace with all that surrounds us. And that is ultimately the message of St. Francis, living in peace with the world around you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the service. Have a great morning.
Today I'd like to explore the intersection of religious and spiritual faith and the natural world. And I chose a book to read from, an award-winning book called The Snow Leopard that was released in 1975 by Peter Matheson, who was a naturalist and also a Zen Buddhist. And he journals his journey into the high Himalayan mountains in Tibet in search of a snow leopard, but also in search of healing. Matheson was a very, very devoted Buddhist, and his trek into the Himalayas also took him to a Buddhist monastery. So I'm just going to read a short excerpt from The Snow Leopard. It comes at the end of the book where Matheson and his companion are visiting a lama, and he talks about his, not the Dalai Lama, another lama, and he talks about his meeting with this person. And at the end he writes, "The Lama gives me a white prayer flag. He calls it wind pictures, printed with both script and images from old wood blocks. Among the Buddhist symbols is an image of the great god of mountains and rivers." The Lama folds the prayer flag with great concentration and presents it with the blessing of his smile. The Lama of the Crystal Mountain appears to be a very happy man, and yet I wonder how he feels about his isolation in the silences of the Buddhist monastery. I asked my interpreter not to ask him this question, whether he is happy or not, but the interpreter asked the question. And this holy man of great directness and simplicity, big white teeth shining, laughs out loud in an infectious way at the question, indicating his twisted legs without a trace of self-pity or bitterness, as if they belonged to all of us. He casts his arms wide to the sky and the snow mountains, the high sun and the dancing sheep, and he cries, "Of course I'm happy here. It's wonderful, especially when I have no choice." In its wholehearted acceptance of what is, I feel as if he had struck me in the chest. I thank him, bow, go softly down the mountain. Under my parka, the folded prayer flag glows. Tea and wind and pictures, the crystal mountain and the blue sheep dancing on the snow, it's quite enough. Have you seen the snow leopard? No. Isn't that wonderful? This ends our reading. About 1700 years ago, Christianity, which back then was a very small faith tradition, exploded onto the world scene when the Roman Emperor Constantine declared that Christianity was the official religion of the Roman Empire. And now, 1700 years later, there are approximately 2.3 billion Christians in the world, making up over 30% of the world's population. 3 centuries after Constantine, in the late 600s, Islam began to spread from Arabia west to the Mediterranean and southern Europe and east into Asia and the Far East. Today, there are over 1.8 billion Muslims in the world, making up 24% of the world's population. Clearly, humanity has the ability to have faith in large numbers and to act on that faith to build and achieve any manner of things. So today I'm going to ask the question whether a faith tradition that values the earth, that values the animals and all who live on it, the wind and the rivers and the trees and the sky and the air we breathe, can we build a faith tradition that can rival the major religions of the world? Imagine what the world would look like if we humans embrace the need to protect wildlife and other species as a matter of religious faith, embrace the need to reverse the effects of climate change, the need to preserve and protect our wild places and defend wild and endangered species against poaching and encroachment on their space. What if working for climate justice became one of the world's major religions? The analogy isn't as far off as it would seem, because the earth, of course, is our creator and shares a space, in many people's view, including my own, a space similar, equal to that of God. The Hebrew scripture, which describes the creation of heaven and earth and the creation of humankind, talks about Adam. The name Adam is derived from the Hebrew word Adamah, which means the ground or earth. The earth is embedded deeply in all of our scriptural and religious beliefs. Last Friday, in sending out an announcement about this service today, I gave you a quote, or shared with you a quote from a book written by the naturalist Michael McCarthy. It was written in 2015. It's called The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy. I'm going to read you an excerpt again from that book later on, but in the excerpt I shared with you on Friday, he describes how human beings, very early in our development, before we became quote-unquote civilized, hunter-gatherers, must have not only appreciated the wonder of the nature that fed them, but also must have appreciated the beauty of simple things like butterflies and birds and flowers, the kind of things that we appreciate today. And in reflecting on that, it occurred to me that a few weeks ago, I had shared with you my belief that before there were major religions in the world, human beings still had the innate desire to pray. And when I shared my thought with you about that a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago maybe, I referred to the looking up at the sky at night and looking at the stars and trying to figure out where we came from, looking up and gazing up at the universe in wonder and amazement. And I think that is part of where we get our spiritual tendencies, impulses, where our DNA connects with the universe. But in thinking about McCarthy's observation about how human beings also must have appreciated the natural world, it occurred to me that that too is something that triggered our desire to pray. That beauty in the earth, in nature, not just in the sky at night, but the birds and the beasts and the animals that are around us, that is part of our spiritual life. And that is what gave birth to religion. And unfortunately, in the last 2,000 years, the world's major religions have become very people-centric. And the the connection with nature seems to have been lost. At least that's my opinion. The major religions of the world anyway. There are so many other faith traditions, paganism and others, that still celebrate the ancient practices and the connection with the natural world. I don't think we're that different today in 2020 than those hunter-gatherers from 50,000 years ago, the ones who drew paintings and images on the sides of dark caves depicting the world around them, the big beasts that they chased. We're not that different. And that's why so many of us love our pets, love our animals, and love the natural world. It is one of the things that connects us as human beings. I'd like to share with you a little bit more from The Snow Leopard by Peter Matthiessen. In the autumn of 1973, Matthiessen and the zoologist George Schaller set out on a grueling trek into the Himalayas. They were headed towards a region of the Tibetan Plateau, where Schaller wanted to study a species of sheep, the Himalayan blue sheep. But for Matthiessen, he writes, there was the small matter of the snow leopard, whose terrible beauty is the very stuff of human longing. Its uncompromising yellow eyes, wired into the depths of its unfathomable spirit, gaze out from the cover of innumerable magazines. It is, I think, the animal I would most like to be eaten by. In addition to his quest to see the snow leopard in the wild, Matthiessen, who, as I mentioned, was a serious student of Zen Buddhism, was also on a religious pilgrimage. A short way into the book, we learn that his wife had died several months earlier. She had died from cancer, leaving him a widower with 3 small children. For Matthiessen, the snow leopard's elusiveness became a lesson in the Buddhist idea of non-attachment, the radical letting go of one's regrets about the past and dreams for the future in order to be present in the here and now. He writes, this is a fine chance to let go, to win my life by losing it, which means not recklessness, but acceptance, not passivity, but non-attachment. If the snow leopard should leap from the rock above and manifest itself before me, then in that moment of pure fright, out of my wits, I might truly perceive it and be free. During their journey, the closest that the 2 explorers get to a snow leopard is seeing some recent prints in the mud. But Mathiessen's connection with this animal and his Buddhist non-attachment let go of many things, including some of his grief for his lost wife. This book, which won many literary awards, was written 50 years ago. But in it, Matthiessen writes also about the imminent and ominous effects of climate change. We have outsmarted ourselves, he writes. Like greedy monkeys, now we are full of dread. Snow leopards still live across a vast area of northern and central Asia, including the Himalayan mountains. They live above the tree line, above 18,000 feet. They're found in countries like China, Nepal, India, Pakistan, even Russia and Mongolia. They have thick gray and yellow fur with solid spots on their head. They have long tails that they use for balancing on rocks and wrapping themselves up against the cold winds. And they have large furry paws that act as both snowshoes and for padding on sharp rocks. There are an estimated 4,000 to 6,500 snow leopards still left in the world, but they're listed as endangered because their population has declined by 20% over the last 15 years. As their natural prey becomes harder to find, snow leopards are often forced to kill human livestock, which causes the farmers to retaliate and kill them in turn. But it's climate change that poses perhaps the greatest long-term threat to snow leopards. Impacts from climate change could result in loss of up to 30% of their habitat in the Himalayas alone in the years just ahead. Early in the 20th century, writer D.H. Lawrence wrote a short poem. I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A small bird will drop frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself. And for sure, animals rarely share that human experience, or at least rarely show that human emotion of feeling sorry for themselves. But we must. It is up to our species to make the enormous changes that are needed if the snow leopard, the polar bear, and so many other members of the animal world are to survive. Most of us have a spiritual connection to some animal of one kind or another. I grew up with dogs in my family. My mother kept West Highland white terriers that yapped and barked and snipped my whole life. We owned a horse at one point, a big gray-white thing called Carlos that I learned to ride on. I loved that horse, and so did all of my family. I remember working on a riding stables, a riding school when I was 16, and exercising a beautiful thoroughbred. His name was Shadow. I fell in love with him. And throughout my adult lifetime, I've had many dogs. Just this past summer, I was the temporary parent of a gorgeous golden retriever named Buddy, who I had to give up because I couldn't take care of him, sadly. Animals are part of my life, and I love them, as I know many of you do as well. Last Thursday night, just at twilight, I went for a walk in Nixon Park, as I often do, to see if I can spot some birds or owls as the daylight ends. And as I got on my car and walked on the trail at Nixon Park, I saw 3 beautiful white-tailed deer ahead of me. And they looked at me. They didn't feel sorry for themselves. They looked at me kind of suspiciously and puzzled. And then they turned away and jumped soundlessly into the woods of Nixon Park. I'd like to close with sharing some words from the book, The Moth Snowstorm, that I talked about earlier and which I shared with you in our announcement last Friday. Michael McCarthy writes this. In the late 1900s, the British government gave £41 million to establish a high-profile World Centre for Sustainable Development. The Earth Centre, built on a disused colliery site in South Yorkshire, was intended to be a prestigious mass visitor attraction. There were hardly any visitors. It opened in May of 2001 and closed just over 3 years later, and is now forgotten. No one is going to stir the soul with sustainable development. These may be vitally necessary, but they are merely intellectual constructs. They can fill the minds of policymakers, but they cannot reach the hearts of people. It is beliefs which do that. I mean beliefs on the grand scale, faiths, and the briefest glance at history shows what beliefs which fire people's hearts can do. Consider the spread of Christianity, the spread of Islam, the power of the Renaissance, the power of the Reformation, the power of the socialist project. These are great events, but they are fully matched in historical significance by the calamitous event we are entering upon, the destruction of the natural world. And it seems to me only a similar belief on the grand scale can hope to hold that back. That belief, that faith, it is available. It is the belief in nature's worth. People are going to write poems about that. They have done so for thousands of years. But something until now has been absent from the love of nature, from the delight in spring flowers and bird song and the sense of the reawakening year, from the wonder at dolphins and the wonder at the dawn chorus. The modern understanding we are reaching that there is an ancient bond with the natural world surviving deep within us, which makes it not a luxury, not an optional extra, not just an enchantment, but part of our essence, the natural home for our psyches, where we can find not only joy, but also peace. And to destroy, which is to destroy a fundamental part of ourselves. Should we lose it, we would be less than whole. We would be less than we have evolved to be. We would find true peace impossible. Now, as the 21st century crashes upon the natural world like a tsunami, with all its obliteration and merciless, unthinking ruin, let this new love be expressed. Let it be articulated. Let it be proclaimed. May it be so.
Hands
So we come now to that time in our service when we share with one another. In the information that was sent out to you on Friday, we gave you the information to make a donation to the church, to our church, and also to our Share the Plate partner, which this month is 3P Inc., which owns Rabbit Transit, which is a non-profit organization that helps people get from place to place in our county, including on election day, we'll be helping people go to the polling stations. So they are our Share the Plate partner for the month of October. And now is the time when we share matters of the heart with one another also. I didn't receive any matters of the heart sent to me this week to share with you. I'm going to invite people who would like to share things to share them in the chat box, and I will read them to you. And I would like to start by lighting a candle of concern for our president, President Trump, and his family, and all of those who have been affected by the coronavirus. I hope that they all make a speedy recovery and that our country will experience less turmoil and uncertainty in the weeks ahead. And I don't see anyone typing any matters of the heart in the chat box. And so we'll light one final candle at this time for all of our unspoken joys and concerns. May our joys be magnified and our concerns diminished by the sharing. Thank you, Susan. And I'd like to share with you now a blessing of the animals. I'm going to ask Grant to show a picture on a screen that we talked about while I share this blessing with you for all those animals that we carry in our heart. We give thanks that our world is shared among such a variety of folk. Two-legged folk with fur on their heads and winged folks with feathers, four-legged furry folk, and folk with scales and fins, folk who crawl and creep and swim and swing through trees. We give thanks for the creatures we may never see, ibex and kangaroos, tarsiers and fruit bats, anteaters and anacondas. And we give thanks for these, our non-human friends, who share our lives and give us love and companionship, playfulness and joy. These friends are a blessing to us, and we offer our blessing in return. In the spirit of all those who have devoted their lives to keeping a place in the world for animals, we give our love and ask for blessings on our friends. May this love, these blessings be felt beyond this gathering, ranging out to the animals who add so much to the lives of others, not only through love and companionship, but also through the lives of service in tasks ranging from guide dogs to police horses. May we care for the wild ones whom we rarely see as much as we care for those who greet us at the door, with a love made real by respect. And may that love and respect be strong enough to ensure that our small world is always large enough to give a home to the amazing diversity of life, which blesses us in ways which we can only begin to imagine. Let us now join our hearts in prayer for these very special and beloved friends. Let's hold a minute in silence at home, a moment of prayer and meditation for the creatures that we all love. And I'm going to pray with you as you sit there quietly. Holy One, Spirit of life and love, today we give thanks for the love and companionship of our domestic animals and pets. We also give thanks for all of the wild creatures of the earth. We ask you to protect them, help us to respect them, and may they always have places to live safely, to roam freely, and play joyfully as nature intended. Amen. May it be so.
As our Sunday worship service draws to a close, we extinguish our chalice. Please read the words on the screen as we extinguish our chalices here in the sanctuary and at your own home. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'm really thrilled to share that we have hired a new member of staff. We have hired a communications coordinator, Her name is Rachel Schmidt, and she started with us on October 1st. Rachel will be responsible for taking care of our website, our other social media platforms, and she will be working with the various committee chairs and with the staff and the lay leadership to put together a monthly newsletter for all of you, and you'll also be receiving some weekly and monthly other updates from her. So I can't wait for you to meet and be introduced to Rachel. And in that spirit, I just want to let you know that we're aware that your email inboxes get inundated with, or seem to get inundated with emails from the church office. Starting now, we're going to go to a new system of, at the beginning of the week, just sending a church calendar, and then one more email on Fridays with all of the other important news that can't wait until the monthly newsletter at the end of the month. So hopefully you'll be receiving fewer communications from us going forward. And with that, our service is over, our worship is over, our service begins. May your roots grow deep, may your branches grow wide, go in peace, and we'll see you next Sunday. Take care, enjoy this beautiful full day. Go lifted up, love bless your way. Moonlight, starlight, guide your journey into peace and the brightness of day.
It's like a stampede. They love that music. Play it again for them, so I'll give them another tune.
Yeah, turn this way.